student in the central?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe in Hong Kong.
But anyway, I assume that most of them are still protesting. But anyway, for this course, for the lectures, it's okay if you don't come, but for the tutorials, it's better for you to come, because tutorials will be marked, it will be graded, and your discussion, your attendance, and also your presentation will be graded. So it's better to tell your classmates to at least come to the tutorials. And I think the protesting probably is, hopefully it's ending soon. Okay? So hopefully next week all of you can come to the midterm. Otherwise, this. But anyway, we cannot change our schedule because it's already in the midterm now. So next week, October 17th, we will have the midterm exam. But actually, during the class, it's not exam at all. Okay? Just, I want to tell you what the format is. Okay? But anyway, just come. Don't need to bring anything. Just come to the lecture next week. Okay? And for those of your classmates, I think I will announce, I will send an email to everyone. It's better to come to the lectures, but if you don't come for the midterm exam, I will try to find another way, for you to take the midterm exam. Okay? But anyway, that's the message. Okay? Now, after that day, then I will give you a question. Okay? I will give you 1 or 2 questions, and then basically the midterm exam is actually a take-home exam. Take-home exam. So I will give you some questions, and then you'll just answer the questions. Don't need to be long. 1 page should be enough. Okay? 1 page, but there should be a copy. Your midterm paper. Your midterm paper should conform to my format. Should conform to my format. Single space. Okay? Single space, 1 page. But you must answer the question in a smart way, because only 1 page. Only 1 page. But it basically means it's actually more difficult for you, okay, to answer the question. Okay? Sometimes, in the exams, most of the students will try to hit the points by writing a long essay. That is not a good strategy, and I would discourage such kind of strategy for my course. Okay? Try to answer the questions succinctly, okay? And also directly to the point. Try to answer the question directly on the point. Okay? I will give you, tentatively, I will give you 2 weeks for take-home exam. Okay, tentatively. But if you want more time, that should be okay. Okay, so that's for the midterm quiz. I don't want to say it's the exam midterm quiz. Okay? Any questions? Yes.
Yeah, like is the midterm now a quiz or a paper or both?
Not quiz actually, it's a paper.
Okay.
A midterm paper.
Okay, so we get the question next week and then we answer it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Fine. Any more questions? Okay. So let's continue. Now last week we have discussed the social code. Okay. We have 2 questions. Basically, if you understand these 2 questions, you already understand that you would have understood what social capital theory is. So first tell me, what is social capital theory about? What is social capital theory about? Yes?
Is it the people that you know? The connections that you have?
And what? The people you know?
And what the people can bring you, like what kind of, like some benefits
Okay. So we are actually saying that the people you know can bring you some benefits. Okay. That is, in fact, I would say this. You answered half of the question. Okay. First, you should also tell me what social capital is. Okay. Social capital is. That should be easy, right? Social capital. You know what social capital is? What is social capital? And don't be confused. Okay? Social capital is not equal to social networks. Okay? Social capital, what is social capital? I'm going to try to read your slides. What's social capital? What is social capital? Social capital, when we talk about any capital, capital basically are resources. Okay? So social capital basically are resources. But these resources are embedded in social networks. Okay? So basically, social capital is the resources embedded in social networks. Okay? In your social networks. That is social capital. Okay? Now, this is one part of the social capital theory, and another part is what it has already answered. Okay? So basically, say that the resources from your social networks can be fungible, okay, can be transformed into other types of capital, like economic capital, okay, like cultural capital, like symbolic capital. Okay. So social capital theory, when we talk about social capital theory, basically, let's say that, first of all, to define social capital, okay, definition. But more importantly, you should just tell me that social capital are fungible. This is the term used by PFD. Social capital are fungible. Fungible basically means changeable. Okay? Can be transformed. Okay? Social capital can be transformed into other types of capital, economic capital, cultural capital, and symbolic capital. Okay, so this is basically social capital theory. Now, the second question, more crucial. What are the sources of social capital? Resources. Social capital is resources embedded in your social network. But how can social networks create resources? That is a crucial question. How can your social networks create resources? Yes?
People can make use of the structural holes in some way.
Okay, so structural hole. Okay. Structural hole is one source of social capital. But there are other two. So at least we have also discussed the network closure. Network closure. So basically the dense social network. Okay. One source is structural hole. Another is dense social network. Network closure. However, there is a third one. We didn't discuss last week, but we have already discussed several weeks ago. What is the third source for social capital? Weak ties. Okay. structural whole can create resources, and how dense social network can create resources, and also how weak class create resources. This is the crucial thing. So structural whole, how can what kind of resources can structural whole bring to you? Structural whole is actually a very difficult term to define, but put it simply to say that structural whole is separation of redundant types. Anyway, we have discussed last week. So this is the ego, and there are several disconnected social networks. Okay? And you have connection to each social network. You have connection to each network. Now, the link, actually, here I should say the non-tie between any person in any of the three social networks, basically so-called structural whole. So this is actually one structural whole. These two people, we assume that these people all connected with each other. These people all connected with each other. These two people, they are not connected with each other, but they can be connected with each other through you, through this link, through you. So this is one structural whole. This is the so-called structural whole. And it, in another sense, this guy with this guy certainly is also a structural whole. It's also a structural whole. Because they are not connected, but they can be connected with each other only through you. Okay? So in this sense, this is a structural whole for the ego, for you. And in this case, basically you can calculate, you can it's a simple math. Calculate how many structural holes here. Okay. So here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 person. Here, 6 person. Here, also 6. So basically, it's 7 multiplied 6 multiplied 6 divided by 2. So totally, there are such amount of structural holes here. Okay. Okay. So this is structural hole. Now, if you have a lot of structural hole, that basically means that first of all, you can obtain new information more rapidly, more timely than others. For all of the other people, they only know information within their own social network. But you basically can know information from all the social networks. Okay? And you know the information much earlier than all people, all other people. Okay? Because only you know the information in all of these other social networks. Okay? So the first benefit is you can obtain timely information. But the second, and probably more important, is because all other people, if they want to know information from other social networks, they must go through you. They must go through you. So in that sense, you can manipulate the information path. Okay? You basically, because all other people, if they want to know information from other social networks, they must try to find you and ask you. Then you can manipulate. Okay? You can basically control information. Okay? Sometimes you tell them the truth, but sometimes you can basically tell lies to them, and then you can control them. Okay? So this is the control benefits. Okay? You have two types of benefits. With a lot of structural hole, you can get timely information and non-redundant information, the new information. Okay? You can get timely, non-redundant information. Non-redundant basically means new information. Redundant information basically means get access to timely, non-redundant information, and also you can control others. That basically means that in this community, in this entire social field, only you enjoy so-called structural autonomy. You enjoy structural autonomy, but others, they don't enjoy autonomy. They all depend on you. Okay? So in that sense, certainly such kind of social network pattern can bring benefits to you. Okay? This is the first one, okay? The first source for creating social capital. Okay? Now, the second one, dense social network, or the so-called network closure. Network closure. Okay? For network closure, basically, we are talking about just one social network. Okay? We are not talking about several social networks. We are just talking about one social network or one community. And in one community, we have a certain number of people. Now, in this social network, virtually everyone is connected with others. Everyone is connected with others. So this is a so-called dense social network. A dense social network basically means that the majority of the people connect with each other. They know. For everyone here, he or she knows all of the other people. This is so-called dense social network. Okay? Now, a dense social network can also bring benefit to you, to everyone here. Okay? There are two types of benefits. One type is here. It's not your information anymore, or not timely information anymore. In fact, it's reliable information. Information here is reliable. Although it's not necessarily you, okay, because we are in the same social network and everyone knows each other. So everyone knows each other basically means that all of the information other people know, you also know. Okay? So in that sense, the information here won't be new, won't be non-redundant, but in a lot of cases are redundant information. Okay? Not new information. But at least these informations are reliable because these people, they know each other. And they will tell the truth. If someone tells lies, then eventually his reputation will be damaged and he will be excluded from the social network. Okay? And seeing that he will be excluded, then eventually everyone will try to tell truth. And in that sense, the information from a dense social network is reliable. Yes.
Just because you know somebody well doesn't mean that you like somebody very well, no? I understand it's very abstractly, it sounds very nice, but somehow, does it mean also that they depend on each other? Then I would agree, because if they depend on each other, they need to cooperate, they need to rely on each other.
In the second part is correct. So in a social network, in such kind of dense social network, basically means that everyone has strong ties with each other. Okay? Strong ties here means that you like each other. Okay? You at least, okay, I would say that you cannot dislike others. If you dislike others, okay, if you hate others, then eventually, basically, you will also be excluded from the social network. Okay? So there's strong network, strong ties between each other. Strong ties. That basically means the relationship is close. So it's a close relationship. So that basically even though you hate probably in the heart you hate this guy. You cannot express such kind of hatred. Okay. So this is the first type of benefit. But another benefit is basically we have this kind of trust. Trust. Because as we have learned that if you cheat others, or if you tell lies to others, then eventually you will be excluded from this social network. You will be excluded. Okay? You cannot live in this social network anymore. Okay? So in that sense, okay, seeing that if you tell lies or if you cheat others, then you will be excluded. But everyone does not want to be excluded. So eventually, everyone will try to be a reliable person, try to tell truth. And so eventually, there exists trust. There exists trust within a so-called social network. Okay? And both types of benefits certainly can also bring, in some cases, economic capital. Okay? Also, in other cases, probably cultural capital. Okay? So the case we have discussed last week, if you came last week, we discussed the Catholic school studies by James Coleman. Right? So in Catholic schools in the US, parents and students in the same class, they form a dense social network. Okay? And students, if one student behaved badly or didn't work hard, then he or she will be the other students want to make friends with him, and he cannot find friends anymore. He will basically excluded in the friendship network. Okay? And seeing that, then the students will, first of all, they will behave in a good way. And the second thing is they will also study very hard. Okay? And that eventually will transform into cultural capital. So that basically means that such kind of social network, such kind of dense social network can actually bring cultural capital to the students, okay? To the students in the Catholic schools. Okay. The third thing is weak ties. And another one is actually easier than the first two theories. Okay? So weak ties, we know that weak ties are those people you don't meet often. Okay? You don't meet often, but you know them. Okay? And you don't meet them often. So basically, they are so-called acquaintances of you. Okay? You know them, but they are not your close friends. Okay? So these people, these weak ties, according to Mark Bradley, they can bring you, actually also this one, time, not necessarily timely, but at least non-redundant information. They can bring you non-redundant information. According to Mark Bradley, strong ties in a dense social network cannot bring you non-redundant information. Okay? They will bring you redundant information, not so useful information. Okay? Only those weak ties can bring you non-redundant information. Okay? But James Coleman said that this is not necessary. Indeed, weak ties probably can bring you non-redundant information. Okay? But such kind of information may not be reliable. It may not be reliable. Okay? Sometimes it's basically a lie. Okay? So if it's not reliable, okay, then still it's not useful. It's not useful. Okay? That is why, for James Coleman, he argued that the most important type of social capital is still strong ties in dense social network. Because only in dense social network you have strong ties, and these strong ties can bring you reliable information. Okay? So in that sense, these two theories actually are basically conflict with each other. Okay. So that's for the social capital theory. Any more questions? Understand the patterns. Okay, if you don't have questions, so let's start today's lecture. Now today we'll focus on cultural capital. And after this week, basically we will have finished all of the theories or theoretical frameworks in capital sociology. So cultural capital, again. Cultural capital was proposed by Pierre Bourdieu. The last week we discussed Pierre Bourdieu's capital theories, or 4 types of capital. And today we'll briefly discuss Pierre Bourdieu's own biography and also his main arguments. Pierre Bourdieu was a French sociologist, died about 10 years ago. He was from a somewhat low class family, but his father managed to send him to elite schools. Okay? So he was a product of French elite education system. And in the elite schools, he actually was not only good at studying, learning, and also athletes, and also sports. So he actually was also a star rugby player. Okay? He attended a very famous school in France, and a lot of his classmates actually are very famous scholars, like some of you probably from Europe, you know this guy, a very famous philosopher. Now, after he graduated, then he served in Africa for 2 years, and also lectured at the University of Algiers. And then in 1960, then he went back to France, and rapidly he became a famous scholar and became a professor of sociology at the University of France, the France College of France. And these are 2 major books of Pierre Bourdieu. The first one, this one probably not so famous, but the second one is very famous. Distinction. But it's a very, I would say it's very difficult to read. It's awfully written, although it's very famous. It's cited by a lot of scholars, not only in Europe, but also in the US. It's very strange. Usually the US sociologists don't like European sociologists. European sociologists basically are too theoretical. The papers are not based on empirical evidences, like Habermas. And if you look at the ancient scholars like Karl Marx, Max Weber, all of those scholars, basically they are theorists. From modern US sociologists' point of view, I would say that those are philosophers, not sociologists. And for contemporary sociology in the US, most of them indeed are still theorists. We call them social theorists, but I would say that this probably is not a good term in the US. But anyway, Pierre Bourdieu is different. He is a theorist, but his theory is also based on empirical evidence. But the way he does research, his research methodology is entirely different from the empirical methodology in the US. Okay? That's why this book is very difficult to read, because first of all, the language that US sociologists are not so very familiar with. The second of all, the methodology he used is very strange, although it's also scientific. But anyway, that book basically brings him fame and status, not only in France and also in the US. Okay? Now his main research question is try to understand social inequality pattern in Europe, especially in France. Why social inequality, or especially power inequality, can be persist in Europe? Not like in the US. Probably the European sociologists have some kind of misunderstanding about the US. They thought that in the US, the social structure is quite open, okay? Meaning that there exists a high level of upward social mobility or downward social mobility in the US. But in fact, that is not necessarily true. But anyway, at least in Europe, the social inequality pattern actually is quite close, meaning that once you are born into a lower class, then there exists a very low chance for you to move up. Okay? Because the upper class has already been controlled by a certain group of people or certain group of families. Okay? And he tries to understand why this is so in Europe. Okay? Why the social inequality pattern, why the social hierarchy is closed in Europe, especially in France, in Germany, and also Great Britain, major countries. Okay? Now, his finding, that is basically his finding. Okay? The finding is because in Europe there exists a very unique educational system, and that unique educational system basically created certain type of cultural capital for those upper class families or upper class children. Okay? So this is basically his argument. He argued that the French education system, and actually not just France, in Great Britain and Germany also the educational system in major European countries reproduced cultural and class divisions through symbolic violence and embedded in education system and state. This is his main argument. So today we'll try to understand this big argument based on his cultural theory. Okay? Now, this is his own for Bourdieu. Basically, he believed he's somewhat like he believed that Karl Marx, Marxism. So he was a left scholar, and also achieved celebrity status. Okay? And not only famous in the academic field, also famous in the entire social world, and also probably became rich based on his celebrity status. Okay. Now, his theory usually is termed the so-called cultural sociology. Okay. There are several very unique terms, and for US trained sociologists, basically we are not so familiar with these terms, and for me, it's very difficult for me to understand these terms. Okay? So he has one term called the social field, and the second one is habitus. It's a more weird term, okay? And also forms of capital we have discussed last week: cultural capital, economic capital, social capital, symbolic capital. Okay? Now, social field or social space. Okay? Social field or social space basically is the arenas for the structure over resources. Okay? So he argued that basically our real social world is a battling field. Is a battling field. Everyone tries to struggle for resources. And some people, they are powerful, so they can obtain more resources. But some people, they are not so powerful, they cannot obtain more resources. And because of the difference in resources, the resources that you can control, then you are placed into different social positions. You are placed in different social classes. And because you are placed into different social classes, then you have different habitus. You have different habitus. Okay? Now this is the definition of habitus. If you read it, so habitus is a system of applied dispositions functioning on the practical level of categories of perception and assessment, as well as being organizing principles of action. Totally nonsense. I don't understand at all. Okay? But anyway, you're a sociologist. Translate these habitus into a more familiar term called lifestyles. That one everyone can understand. Okay? Habitus basically roughly equal to lifestyle. And this one basically a common people, common person, a layman can understand. Right? So lifestyles basically means common values, attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors that are shaped by position in the stratification system. Okay? So again, lifestyles are related to your class status. Okay? If you are from an upper class family, you enjoy certain types of values, attitudes, beliefs, and behavior. Okay? But if you are from a lower class family, a working poor, then your lifestyles, your values, your attitude, your beliefs, and your behaviors certainly will be different. Okay? I hope you have already taken social inequality course. So in any social inequality course, basically they will tell you different lifestyles of different social classes. Okay. Now, for Bourdieu, basically he's trying to understand. His main question is trying to understand. First of all, why different classes, people from different classes, have different lifestyles, have different habits. Okay? And second of all, he tries to understand why, okay, if you are from different classes and if you have different so-called habits, then eventually okay, such kind of class status, such kind of habits can be okay, transmitted into the second generation. So why, in other words, why people cannot escape from your parents' class status? So in put it as simple, why there exists less social mobility in Europe? Okay. So to understand this question, why there exists less social mobility in Europe, he proposed a cultural capital theory. Now this is cultural capital, the definition of cultural capital in terms of the education. But certainly, as we discussed later, we can also discuss cultural capital more broadly. But at least for Bourdieu, cultural capital is familiarity with and a configuration of knowledge, attitudes, and social skills that place children at a distinct advantage in the school setting. Again, this is because this is translated from French, so it's still quite difficult to understand. Put it simply, what is cultural capital? Cultural capital basically is the knowledge, the attitudes, and the social skills you learn through socialization. Okay? Basically, that is easier to understand. Basically, cultural capital is the knowledge, the attitudes, and the social skills you learned through your socialization process. So in that sense, okay, cultural capital is a product of your socialization process. Okay? And we know that socialization certainly is related to your family background. Okay? That's why class is important to reproduce cultural capital, as we will discuss later. Okay. Now, in more detail, would you argue that cultural capital includes three types of resources, okay, or three types of things. The first thing is your linguistic styles. Your linguistic styles. Okay? Linguistic styles basically means the words you use when you make conversations with others, and the way you make conversations with others. Okay. So this is the first type of cultural capital. Basically, we can say that this is a type of knowledge, okay, a type of knowledge you obtain through education, your linguistic styles. Okay. The second thing is aesthetic preferences. Aesthetic preferences. These basically are your knowledge about those drawings, like Van Gogh's drawings, okay? And your knowledge about antiques, your knowledge about classical music, etc. Okay? So these are so-called aesthetic preferences. Okay? If you have a lot of knowledge about those expensive drawings, okay, or antiques or classical music, that basically means that you have more cultural capital. Okay? So in that sense, still a type of knowledge you obtain through your socialization process. Okay? The third thing is the styles of social interaction. And this one is more subtle. Okay? So basically means how you interact with each other, the way you interact with each other. And sometimes also include the way you express yourself. Okay? The way you express yourself, like your smile styles. Okay? If you are from an upper middle class family, then your smile style probably it's a smile. Okay? If you read some books, it will tell you how to try to pretend that you are from a rich family. Okay? So, if you smile, you should not allow others to see your teeth. Okay? So this is the smile styles from the probably elite family or from upper middle class. Okay? But if you laugh with all teeth showing others, that basically means they will tell you that this is not a good style. This shows that you are from a lower class family. Okay, and also the way you use forks and spoons. Okay, for most of us, we use. For me, I never. Most of the things I don't use forks. I use just spoons to eat the Western food, or just use hand. And this certainly shows that I'm from a poor family. Okay, so if you are from the upper middle class family, if you are from rich family, always you should use forks, and there are different types of forks for different types of food. Okay? So these things, okay, such kind of social interaction pattern, okay, is also a type of cultural capital. Also a type of cultural capital. Okay? Now, so these things basically are your social skills. Your social skills. Okay? And the attitudes, something here. Okay? So also styles of social interaction. Okay? So the way you treat other people. The way you treat other people, this is actually shows your attitudes towards the world, towards other people. Okay? So basically, cultural capital includes all these three types of things. Okay? All these three types of things. These things, for many people, probably it's trivial. It's trivial, but in fact, these are very important. And in the educational system, especially in Europe, so you are from Europe, probably you can correct me. Okay? So Bourdieu argued that in Europe, these things are even more important than your exam scores when you want to enter universities, elite universities. Okay, we'll discuss later. Okay. Now first, let's try to understand where so-called cultural capital is from. Okay? Now, according to Bourdieu, these things, certainly they are not consciously learned. They are unconsciously, in fact, they are learned through unconscious methods. Unconscious methods. They are learned through the entire socialization process, gradually. Okay, and in a lot of cases, okay, for most of us, okay, we acquire those cultural capital through exposure to a wide range of ideas and experience over our entire socialization process, from the time when you were born until probably you enter college, or probably after you graduate from college. So you obtain cultural capital. Basically, for most of us now, okay, if you can enter college, basically